It started with a phone call I wasn't supposed to hear. The morning sun spilled through my apartment window in Des Moines, turning the steam from my coffee into gold ribbons. I was reviewing soil data for a new irrigation project when my phone left on the kitchen counter buzzed. It was my mother's voice, calm, polite, almost too polite. "Yes, Mr. Collins, we received the confirmation. The land deed has been successfully transferred to Andrew Doyle's name, signed by Miss Hannah Doyle herself." The sound of my own name made the air in the room disappear. My cup slipped from my hand and shattered on the tile floor, splashing brown liquid over my bare feet. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. But then I heard the banker again, cheerful and efficient. "We'll finalize the document archive today. Congratulations to your family." My mother's soft "thank you" was the last thing before the line clicked dead. I stood frozen, my heart pounding so loud it drowned out the world, the land. Grandma Ethel's land, the one she had promised me since I was little, the one she said would secure my independence. My inheritance, my safety net, my connection to her. Gone, just like that. I grabbed my coat and keys without thinking. The drive to Cedar Creek was 2 hours, but I made it in less than 90 minutes, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. The road cut through endless miles of harvested cornfields, the November wind beating against the car like fists. I had left this town to build my own life to escape the suffocating weight of being the good daughter. But somehow the past had followed me like a ghost. When I pulled up to the old farmhouse, everything looked the same, except smaller. The porch sagged a little more, the paint peeled the wind chime. Grandma hung, still clinked softly by the door. I took a breath and stepped inside. The smell of fried onions and cigarette smoke hit me first, followed by my father's voice from the kitchen. "About time you showed up." He didn't even turn from his chair. My mother looked startled, her eyes darting between us. "Hannah, honey, we were just about to call you. You transferred Grandma's land," I said, my voice trembling. Without my consent. My father's face hardened. "We did what's best for this family." I could hear my own pulse in my ears. "You forged my signature." "Watch your tone," he snapped. "That land belongs to this family, not just you." Then Andrew appeared, leaning against the doorframe, smelling of beer and self-pity. "Relax, sis. It's just land. I'll take good care of it." His grin was the same one he used as a teenager when he stole from my wallet. My mother wrung her hands, whispering, "Please don't make a scene. It's done." The world tilted slightly. The betrayal wasn't loud or violent. It was quiet, practiced polite the way this family did everything cruel. I looked at each of them, the father who worshipped his son, the mother who hid behind fear, the brother who saw me as a resource to drain, and realized something broke in me that moment. Grandma once said, "Family can be your greatest strength or your greatest weakness." Standing in that kitchen surrounded by the people who should have loved me most, I finally understood what she meant. They thought I'd come home to beg or cry. They had no idea I'd come home to end it. I walked out of that house without another word. The cold air slapped my face as if to wake me from a dream. My hands were shaking when I opened my car door, but the trembling wasn't fear. It was rage I could taste like iron. Grandma Ethel's voice echoed in my head, the one she used when she wanted me to pay attention. "If they ever try to take what's yours, don't shout. Be smart." I sat behind the wheel, staring at the dark outline of the farm that used to feel like home. I whispered into the silence, "I'm done being quiet." My phone screen reflected my face, red eyes, clenched jaw, a woman who had nothing left to lose. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I hadn't thought about in years, Monica Reyes. Grandma's lawyer, Grandma's friend, and maybe, just maybe, my only chance to fight back. Cedar Creek hadn't changed much since I left. The same 2-lane road cut through town, the same faded billboard that read, "Welcome to God's Country," the same hardware store where my father bought nails and gossip in equal measure. But when I turned down the gravel drive to the Doyle farm, it felt different, smaller, somehow lonelier. The white paint was peeling, the barn door hung crooked, and the fields that used to hum with life were nothing but frozen rows of stubble. My father sat on the porch in his flannel shirt and worn boots, the same image of authority he'd always been. He didn't stand when I parked. So the city girl comes home, he said, voice gravelly from decades of chewing tobacco. You here to apologize or argue I bit my tongue? I'm here because someone forged my name. He snorted. That land belongs to family, not lawyers. You should be grateful your brother's keeping it in the bloodline. It was in the bloodline, I said quietly through Grandma Ethel. She left it to me. The door creaked open and my mother stepped out, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Carol Doyle was still small fragile, the kind of woman whose smile never reached her eyes. Hannah, don't start. Your father only did what's best for everyone. For everyone or for Andrew, I asked. The moment I said his name, I heard heavy boots behind me. Andrew leaned against the porch post, smirking, a beer bottle dangling from his fingers. Hey, sis. Still dramatic, I see. His voice had that lazy drawl that used to charm teachers and ruin lives. You don't even live here anymore. What do you care? It's not about where I live, I said. It's about what Grandma wanted. Grandma was sentimental. Dad interrupted. She didn't understand responsibility. A man needs land to build something. You've got your fancy job and apartment. Andrew's the one with a family to think about. He's divorced, I reminded him. Because he drank the family to death. Andrew's eyes narrowed. Careful, little sister. My mother stepped between us, voice shaking. Please, stop this. We're still a family. The word felt wrong in her mouth. Family, I repeated. You went behind my back and signed away my inheritance. Dad slammed his hand on the porch rail. Watch your tone, girl. You don't talk to me like that under my roof. It's not your roof, I said. It was Grandma's. The silence that followed was sharp as glass. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. My mother's lips trembled. She wanted peace, Hannah. She wouldn't want this fighting. She wanted fairness, I said. She told me herself. Andrew laughed, a bitter sound that made my stomach twist. You always thought she liked you more. Guess that worked out real well, huh? I turned toward him. You forged my name. That's a crime. He shrugged. Prove it. My father stood up slowly, the weight of his authority pressing down on every word. Enough. You can take your accusations and your city attitude and go. You don't belong here anymore. For a second, I almost did what I always did. Lower my head. Swallow the words. Pretend the hurt was smaller than it felt. But something in me had shifted. Maybe it was Grandma's voice echoing in my memory. Maybe it was the exhaustion of years of being the good daughter. I met his eyes and said, You're right. I don't belong here anymore. But neither do your lies. I turned and walked back to my car, gravel crunching beneath my boots. Behind me, I heard my mother's muffled sob and Andrew's voice low and mocking. She'll calm down. She always does. But not this time. This time, I wasn't calming down. I was just getting started. Dinner at the Doyle house had always been an uncomfortable ritual, but that night it felt like a courtroom. The table was set the way my mother always did when she wanted to pretend we were a happy family, roast chicken, mashed potatoes, a bottle of cheap wine that my father swore was just as good as the fancy stuff. I sat at the far end watching as Andrew poured himself a third glass before the food even reached him. My mother tried to smile, but her hands shook as she ladled gravy. Let's just have a nice meal, she said softly. We can talk like civilized people. My father cleared his throat, his knife tapping against his plate. We already talked, he said. Now it's time to settle this properly. He reached under his chair and pulled out a manila envelope. Even before he opened it, I knew what was inside. He slid a stack of documents across the table toward me. All it needs is your signature, and this family can move forward. I didn't touch it. You already forged my name once, I said quietly. Andrew laughed. Oh, come on, Hannah. You really think anyone's gonna believe that? You're just mad you didn't get to control everything. I looked at him, at the man who had spent half his adult life in bars. The man Grandma once said reminded her of a storm with no rain. Grandma left that land to me because she knew you'd ruin it. He smirked, leaning back in his chair. Guess she miscalculated. My father's voice cut in sharp and heavy. Enough. You will not disrespect your brother in this house. He slammed his fist against the table so hard the plates rattled. My mother flinched, whispering, Thomas, please. But he wasn't listening. You think you're better than us, don't you? He growled, eyes narrowing at me. You think your college degree makes you smarter than the people who raised you? No, I said, my voice trembling but steady. I think it makes me free. He scoffed. Free? Don't make me laugh. You wouldn't have had a dime for school if it wasn't for this farm. Everything you are came from this family, and everything I worked for, I said, you're trying to take away. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Hannah, your brother's been through so much. He needs this land to get back on his feet. He needs rehab, not a deed, I said. Stop calling theft help. Andrew slammed his glass down, wine splattering across the tablecloth. You ungrateful brat, he snapped. Grandma spoiled you and now you think you're some kind of saint. I think she trusted me to do the right thing, I replied. And I will. For a moment, no one spoke. The air was thick with something unspoken, years of resentment, disappointment, control. Then my father leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. If you walk away from this table without signing, don't bother coming back. I met his gaze and felt something harden inside me. Then, I guess this is goodbye. I pushed the papers back toward him. His hand shot out, gripping my wrist. The grip wasn't hard enough to bruise, but it was meant to remind me who used to have power. You're making a mistake, he hissed. You'll regret this. I looked him straight in the eye. I already regret staying silent this long. When I pulled my hand free, my mother gasped softly as if the sound of rebellion was something fragile and rare. I stood, walked to the door, and turned one last time. Andrew had his feet up on the table, smirking, pretending to be untouchable. My father sat rigid, his pride cracking just enough for me to see fear beneath it. My mother stared down at her lap, caught between loyalty and guilt. You can keep your dinner, I said, but not my name. I walked out into the night, the cold biting through my jacket, the stars bright and indifferent above me. I'd spent my whole life believing family meant sacrifice. That night, I learned it could also mean survival. The highway stretched ahead of me like a black ribbon through the dark. I didn't remember turning on the car or even leaving the driveway. All I knew was that I had to get away before the anger turned into something worse. The rain came hard fast, blurring the road until the headlights were the only thing that existed. My phone buzzed in the passenger seat, Mom's name flashing again and again, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. What could she possibly say? That I should come back and make peace. That family comes first, even when family steals from you. I turned the phone off and kept driving. My chest hurt in that slow, suffocating way. Grief hurts. Not the grief of death, but of realization that the people I had trusted most didn't see me as a daughter, but as an obstacle. I pulled into a rest stop outside Des Moines, parking beneath the buzzing fluorescent light. The rain softened into a steady drizzle, tapping against the windshield. For a long time, I just sat there staring at the steering wheel, shaking. My breath fogged the glass. Then I opened the glove compartment. Inside was the old wooden box Grandma Ethel had given me on my 21st birthday, carved with the initials E.O. I had kept it for sentimental reasons, never daring to open it since the funeral. My hands trembled as I flipped the latch. Inside was a folded letter and a smaller envelope sealed with wax. The letter smelled faintly of lavender and dust. My grandmother's handwriting curved gracefully across the page. My Hannah, if this finds you, it means what I feared has happened. The farm is yours and only yours. If anyone tries to take it, call Monica Reyes. She knows what to do. And remember, child justice doesn't shout. It whispers through preparation. Tears blurred the ink as I traced her signature. In the smaller envelope was a business card, the name Monica Reyes, Attorney at Law, printed in clean black letters, and a number written in Grandma's handwriting beneath it. I looked at the card for a long time before picking up my phone. The line rang twice before a woman answered, her voice calm and measured. Reyes Law Office. Is this Monica Reyes? I asked, my voice cracking. It is. Who's calling? My name is Hannah Doyle. My grandmother was Ethel O'Connor. There was a pause, then a soft inhale. I was wondering when I'd hear from you. Her voice carried a warmth that cut through the cold around me. She told me this day might come. Where are you right now, Hannah? On the highway, I whispered. They forged my signature. They took everything. They didn't take everything Monica said. They took the bait. Come see me in the morning. How did you know this would happen? I asked, a faint chuckle. Because your grandmother did. And she was never wrong about people. When the call ended, I sat there for a long time, letting her words settle in. They didn't take everything. They took the bait. For the first time that night, I felt something other than rage. It was faint, small, but steady like the warmth of a fire just beginning to catch. Hope. Grandma Ethel had seen through them even from her grave. She had left me something stronger than land. She had left me a plan. I placed the letter back into the box, closed it, and whispered, "All right, Grandma. Let's finish what you started." Morning sunlight crept through the blinds of Monica's small downtown office, catching dust in the air like glitter. It smelled faintly of coffee and old paper, the kind of place where secrets were both kept and solved. Monica Reyes stood as I entered, tall, confident, wearing a navy suit that looked both sharp and kind. She extended her hand. "You look just like her," she said, smiling faintly. "Ethel O'Connor. That woman could outthink 3 bankers before breakfast." I sat down, clutching Grandma's letter like a lifeline. "She told me to call you. She said you'd know what to do." Monica nodded, settling across from me. "She did, and I've been keeping her files ready for years." She opened a locked drawer, pulling out a thick folder labeled E. O'Connor Trust, Conditional Estate. "Your grandmother was brilliant," she said, flipping through documents. "She knew your father's nature, your brother's habits, and your mother's silence. She created a plan to protect you." "Protect me how?" I asked, leaning forward. Monica slid a single page across the desk. It was a notarized clause with a gold seal. "This is a conditional ownership transfer," she explained. "It means that if anyone other than you attempts to claim or alter ownership of the O'Connor farm, the deed automatically freezes and becomes a matter for probate court. Forging your signature triggers a full investigation." I blinked, stunned. "So that means—" "It means," Monica said, her eyes glinting. "Your father and brother just activated the trap." I couldn't help it. I laughed, though it came out shaky. Part shock, part relief. She really planned this. "Down to the signature," Monica said, smiling. Ethel was not sentimental when it came to justice. She told me once, "I won't live forever, but I'll make sure fairness does." I felt my throat tighten. For a moment, all I could do was nod, my hands gripping the edge of the desk. "What happens now?" I asked. Monica leaned back, tapping her pen. "Now we notify the county registrar and the state agricultural board. Once they receive this document, the property title is frozen. Your father can't sell, your brother can't use it for loans, and no bank can release funds related to the estate. We'll also file a fraud report with the local authorities." "So the land's safe," I whispered. Monica smiled again, but her expression softened. "Safe, yes, but not quiet. This will shake your family, Hannah. They'll come for you with guilt, anger, and tears. Are you ready for that?" I thought of my father's glare, my mother's trembling voice, Andrew's smug grin. I felt the anger flicker again. Not fire this time, but something steadier. "I've been quiet my whole life," I said. "I think I'm finally ready to be heard." Monica nodded. "Good, then let's make some noise." She pulled a blank form from her desk and handed me a pen. "Sign here, Ms. Doyle. Let's make sure your grandmother's wisdom does what it was meant to do." I took the pen and signed my name, not shaking, not afraid. As the ink dried, something inside me shifted. For the first time in years, I wasn't the obedient daughter, the forgotten one, the compromise. I was the heir my grandmother had prepared me to be. By the following Monday, Monica had set everything in motion. Her small legal team worked like clockwork, faxing affidavits, emailing banks, and filing emergency motions before my family even realized what was happening. They forged a legal document, she said during our morning call. "That's not a misunderstanding, Hannah. That's a felony." Her tone was calm, but the words hit like thunder. That afternoon, I received the first call from my father. I didn't answer. The second came from my mother, her voice cracking in the voicemail. "Honey, please call us back. Your father's upset and Andrew's scared. The police were at the farm today. This is getting out of hand." Out of hand, I thought bitterly. That's what they called it when control slipped through their fingers. Later that night, I sat at my apartment desk staring at the stack of legal copies Monica had couriered over. The black ink of my forged signature stared back at me jagged and clumsy. It looked nothing like my handwriting, yet my family had been willing to swear it was mine. That realization hurt worse than the theft itself. It wasn't just greed. It was betrayal wrapped in familiarity. Around midnight, Monica called. The registrar confirmed the freeze, she said. The deed is locked until the court hearing. No transactions can be processed. So they can't sell it, I asked. They can't even sneeze near it, Monica replied dryly. But brace yourself. They'll try to play the victim now. She wasn't wrong. The next morning, my mother showed up at my apartment unannounced. She looked smaller somehow, her coat buttoned wrong, her eyes rimmed red. Hannah, please, she started the moment I opened the door. Your father hasn't slept. Andrew's drinking again. We didn't mean for it to go this far. You forged my name, I said evenly. You stole from me. Her chin trembled. We thought it was just paperwork. Your brother needed help. He said he'd pay it back. And you believed him, I asked. She looked down. He's my son, and I'm your daughter, I said quietly. But that never seemed to matter as much. She covered her face, whispering, We were desperate. I wanted to feel compassion, but the exhaustion ran too deep. Desperation doesn't excuse deceit, Mom. You always told me to be honest, to work hard, and the moment you could, you sold both those lessons for your comfort. She didn't argue. She just stood there, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. Your father wants to talk to you, she murmured. Then he can call my lawyer, I said, and closed the door. My hands were shaking again, but this time from something else, clarity. That night, Monica emailed me the hearing schedule. They'll be angry, but remember, anger means the truth is working. I smiled at that. In the weeks that followed, my father's pride began to crack. He left furious voicemails, then apologetic ones. Andrew called from blocked numbers, switching between insults and pleas. But I didn't respond. Every word they said only confirmed what Grandma had always known: they would never change unless forced to face themselves. On the morning of the court date, Monica met me outside the courthouse, files tucked neatly under her arm. Nervous, she asked. Terrified, I admitted. Good, she said. That means you care. But remember, you're not here to fight them. You're here to stand for her. Inside, the wooden benches creaked, the smell of paper and polish heavy in the air. Across the aisle, my father sat stiffly in a suit that no longer fit right, my mother clutching her purse, and Andrew slouched beside them, avoiding my gaze. When the judge entered, my heart steadied. Monica whispered, Breathe. This is your turn now. For the first time, I wasn't the one being lectured, blamed, or told to give up. I was the one holding the truth, and I was done letting them rewrite it. The hearing lasted less than 2 hours, but it felt like years of silence unraveling at once. Monica's voice was steady as she presented the forged documents, laying them out like pieces of evidence in a crime scene, each signature, each notarized lie, every fake witness line that bore my father's shaky penmanship. The judge studied them through his glasses, unimpressed. Across the aisle, my father's confidence began to crumble. Andrew tried to whisper something to him, but Thomas silenced him with a glare. My mother sat frozen, her knuckles white around her purse strap, her eyes darting to the exit as if she wished she could melt into the walls. When Monica produced the bank's call log, proving that my parents had requested the transfer personally, the courtroom went silent. Then she read Grandma Ethel's conditional clause aloud. The words hit like a hammer. Any attempt to alter or transfer the property by any party other than Hannah Doyle will render the deed frozen and subject to court oversight. Any fraudulent act will be treated as legal theft of inheritance. The judge's tone was calm but final. It appears Mrs. O'Connor anticipated this exact situation. I looked over at my family. My father's jaw worked, but no sound came out. Andrew looked stunned, his smirk long gone. My mother's tears finally broke free. The decision came quickly. The property remains in Miss Doyle's name, the judge ruled. Furthermore, due to the presented evidence of forgery, all secondary claims are invalid. The county clerk will permanently record the ownership transfer as fraudulent. The gavel came down with a sharp crack that echoed like thunder through my bones. It was over. But outside the courthouse, as the reporters swarmed with questions and the winter wind whipped at our faces, it didn't feel like victory, it felt like loss. My father refused to look at me. My mother murmured through tears, "We were trying to help him, Hannah. He's your brother." I met her gaze and said softly, "And I'm your daughter." Andrew shoved past us both, red-eyed and furious. "You think you won? You destroyed this family." His breath smelled like whiskey even at noon. "You did that yourself," I replied. He pointed a shaking finger at me. "You're just like her." "Who, Grandma?" he spat. "Cold, calculating, always judging us." "She wasn't judging," I said. "She was protecting me from what she already saw in you." He turned away, muttering curses under his breath, and disappeared down the courthouse steps. I watched him go, feeling the strange hollow ache that comes when justice and heartbreak meet in the same breath. Monica came up beside me, slipping a hand onto my shoulder. "You did well," she said. "Better than you think." "It doesn't feel like winning," I admitted. "It's not supposed to," she said quietly. "Justice isn't joy, Hannah. It's balance." That night, I sat alone in my apartment, the official court documents spread out on the table before me. My grandmother's name, my own, the black and white proof that the land was mine again. It should have felt triumphant. But all I could think about was how quiet it was. No father yelling, no mother soothing, no brother demanding, just silence, and for the first time that silence belonged to me. Outside, snow began to fall over the city. I closed the folder and whispered into the stillness. "You were right, Grandma. They didn't just lose the land, they lost me." 3 weeks after the hearing, the story hit the local paper. "Farm heir clears her name. Family accused of forgery." It was printed on cheap newsprint, but seeing those words felt heavier than any gavel. I sat in my kitchen, the headline spread open beside my coffee mug, reading the article twice each sentence, both vindication and heartbreak. The piece quoted the judge, "This court recognizes Ms. Doyle as the sole rightful heir of the O'Connor property." It should have felt like peace, but peace doesn't arrive quietly. It shows up with the sound of old illusions breaking. The town of Cedar Creek was small. Gossip traveled faster than wind. By noon, everyone knew the Doyles had been exposed. My father's longtime supplier refused to extend him credit. My mother's church group voted her out of the charity board, and Andrew had become the local ghost. People whispered when they saw him, some out of pity, others out of satisfaction. Monica called that afternoon, her tone a mix of triumph and caution. "You've won, Hannah," she said, "but winning doesn't mean they'll stop fighting it in their minds. They'll rewrite it however helps them sleep." I stared out my window at the falling snow. "They already have," I said. "In their story, I'm the one who ruined everything." Monica sighed softly. "Then it's time to start writing your own story." The next week, I drove back to Cedar Creek for the first time since the verdict. The road to the farm looked the same, muddy, narrow, lined with frostbitten trees, but something in me had changed. I wasn't driving home to ask for forgiveness. I was driving to reclaim what was mine. When I parked in front of the farmhouse, my father was standing on the porch, bundled in his old coat, staring out at the empty field. His voice cracked when he spoke. "You really went through with it." I nodded. I did. He didn't look angry anymore. Just hollow. "That land was supposed to be his," he said. "He's the son." I met his eyes, and I'm the one who earned it. His jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. My mother appeared in the doorway, her face pale and tired. "We thought you'd come to help us," she said. "We didn't think you'd take it all." "I didn't take anything," I said softly. "I just stopped letting you." She reached for me, her hands trembling. "Hannah, we're still your family." I took a step back. "You were my family." "But family doesn't forge signatures." The wind cut through the yard, lifting snow into tiny spirals. My father turned away, muttering something about pride and loyalty. My mother wiped her tears with the corner of her apron. And Andrew, he wasn't there. I found him later behind the barn, sitting on a broken fence post, a cigarette between his fingers. His face was red puffy from alcohol, but his voice was almost boyish when he spoke. You got everything you wanted, huh? No, I said. I got everything Grandma wanted. He laughed bitterly. She never trusted me. She gave you more chances than you deserved, I said. And you wasted every one. He looked up at me, his eyes wet and furious. You think you're better than us? I shook my head. No, Andrew. I just stopped being worse. He didn't reply. The wind carried the last smoke from his cigarette as I turned and walked away. For the first time, I wasn't running. I was reclaiming my steps 1 frozen inch of soil at a time. Back in the car, I looked at the farm, the barn, the trees, the snow glittering under the weak sun, and whispered, "It's ours again, Grandma, and this time, no one will take it." By spring, Cedar Creek had turned green again, but for my family, everything had withered. The Doyle name, once spoken with respect in the feed store and the Sunday market, now came with a pause, a raised brow, a whisper. My father's pride didn't survive the scandal. The bank canceled his loan extensions and suppliers refused credit. I heard from a neighbor that he sold his old tractor and 2 of the smaller fields to cover debts. The man who had once boasted a Doyle never begs had quietly started borrowing money from people he used to look down on. My mother left the church board. The same women who used to envy her garden parties now avoided her completely. She stopped calling me for weeks after the verdict. Then one evening she left a voicemail that said only, "I made dinner tonight. There's enough for you." It broke me a little that she still believed food could fix betrayal. And Andrew, he left town. Some said he'd gone to Sioux City looking for construction work. Others whispered rehab, though I doubted he'd stayed long. His car was found abandoned near the county line, the back seat full of empty bottles. I never heard from him again, but the silence was almost a mercy. Meanwhile, the land, my land, stood quiet waiting. For months, I couldn't bring myself to go back. The house held too many echoes, too many ghosts. Then, one warm April morning, I drove to the farm with a truck full of seedlings tools and 2 hired hands from the agricultural center. The soil was rough, neglected, but alive beneath the frost. I could almost hear Grandma Ethel's voice. "A farm's like a person, Hannah. You treat it right, it forgives you." I decided to bring it back to life, not as a farm that hoarded its yield, but as one that gave. With Monica's help, I filed paperwork to turn a portion of the land into a community teaching farm for young women in agriculture. We called it Ethel's Acres. The first day, 6 girls showed up, some barely 20-some older than me, all eager to learn how to grow something that couldn't be taken from them. As I watched them plant rows of tomatoes, lettuce, and wildflowers, I felt something shift deep inside me. For the first time since the betrayal, the ache in my chest eased. The farmhouse was still standing, though it needed care. I repainted it, fixed the roof, and replaced the old rusted mailbox with one that simply read, H. Doyle. When the wind blew through the fields that summer, it carried laughter instead of shouting. I started sleeping again, not out of exhaustion, but peace. People in town began to see me differently. Some approached at the market offering small smiles, a word of respect. "Your grandmother would be proud," one old man told me, tipping his hat. And maybe she would. Not because I won the lawsuit, but because I didn't let bitterness become my legacy. One afternoon, as I was locking up the barn, Monica visited. She looked around the farm with quiet satisfaction. "You turned justice into something useful," she said. "Most people just want revenge." I smiled. "Revenge feeds the ego. This feeds people." She laughed. "Ethel was right about you." That night, I sat on my porch alone, watching the sun sink behind the hills. The field shimmered gold, the air sweet with clover. I thought of my father's silence, my mother's half-apologies, Andrew's absence, and realized I didn't need any of them to validate who I was anymore. The land was mine, yes, but more importantly, so was my peace. Grandma used to say, "When you plant something in anger, it never grows straight." I finally understood. This farm wasn't built from anger. It was built from endurance, from knowing that justice when nurtured could grow roots strong enough to outlast betrayal. Late that summer, my mother came back to the farm for the first time. I saw her car coming up the drive, slow and hesitant, like she wasn't sure she had the right to be there. She stepped out wearing her old sun hat, the one she used to wear while helping Grandma Ethel shell peas on the porch. Time had softened her. Her shoulders seemed smaller, her eyes heavier. I met her halfway down the path. She didn't speak at first. She just handed me a small envelope, her hands trembling. "It's from your father," she said quietly. "He wanted me to give it to you." I didn't open it right away. "How is he?" I asked. She sighed. "Older than his years. He barely leaves the house now. The town won't talk to him, and he doesn't talk to anyone either." She looked around the fields, lush green alive. "You really brought it back," she whispered. "It's beautiful." I could see tears forming in her eyes. "He was wrong, Hannah. We both were. We thought love meant protecting Andrew. We didn't see what that cost you." Her voice cracked. "You were the only one who ever tried to save this family." I felt my throat tighten. "Mom," I said softly, "you can't save people who don't want saving." She nodded slowly, tears sliding down her face. "You sound just like her," she said. "Ethel. You got her backbone, her kindness." I smiled faintly. She taught me both come from the same place. For a while, we stood in silence listening to the wind move through the crops. Then she handed me a folded piece of paper. "Your father wrote you this," she said. I hesitated, then opened it. The handwriting was shaky, but familiar. "Hannah, I was wrong. I see that now. Pride's a heavy thing. It blinds you to the truth until it burns everything it touches. You didn't take the family from me. I lost it myself. I'm sorry. Take care of the land. Take care of yourself. Dad." I folded the paper carefully, my hands steady. He never said those words out loud before I murmured. "He still can't," she said. "But he wanted you to know." She looked toward the horizon, then back at me. "Will you ever forgive us?" I took a long breath. "I already did, Mom. I just stopped waiting for you to ask." She closed her eyes, tears spilling over. "Thank you," she whispered. When she left, I stood alone in the fading light, watching her car disappear down the gravel road. The fields shimmered gold and quiet. Forgiveness wasn't a gift I gave them, it was the key that unlocked the part of me they couldn't break. That night, I placed my father's letter inside Grandma's old box next to hers. 2 generations of lessons written in different hands, bound by the same truth. Love isn't proven by obedience. It's proven by courage. The following autumn, Cedar Creek gathered for the Harvest Festival, the first one I had attended in years. The air smelled of apple pies and wood smoke, the sound of fiddles carrying across the town square. I brought a small stand from Ethel's acres, giving away baskets of vegetables to families who couldn't afford to buy them. When people asked about the name, I always said, "It's my grandmother's land." She believed in second chances, and every time I said it, I felt her somewhere close, smiling. The farm had become something bigger than me. Women from neighboring counties came to learn how to plant, how to manage soil, how to build something of their own. Some were single mothers, some survivors of bad marriages, some just searching for purpose. I taught them what Grandma taught me, that strength doesn't have to be loud, and justice doesn't need applause to matter. It only needs roots. Late one evening after everyone had left, I walked through the rows of corn, the sky burning pink and orange. The old windmill creaked softly, the air cool against my face. I stopped by the edge of the field where Grandma's bench still stood. On it, I'd carved words from her final letter. "Grow what lasts." I sat there a long while, watching the light fade. The fields stretching endless before me. That land had seen betrayal, grief, anger, but now it grew peace. Not the quiet kind that hides pain, but the earned kind built on truth. My phone buzzed. A message from Monica Foundation approved. "You're officially funded." I smiled. Ethel's Acres Foundation, a program to support women in farming education and rebuilding their lives after loss. Grandma's dream had become a movement. As the last light slipped below the horizon, I whispered into the wind. "You were right, Grandma. The land was never just soil. It was memory. It was love disguised as work." Somewhere in the rustle of the leaves, I could almost hear her reply, "And you were the harvest, Hannah." I stood, brushed the dirt from my jeans, and looked at what we had built, rows of new life born from old wounds. I had lost a family but gained a future. I had lost approval but found purpose. And maybe that's what inheritance really means, not money, not property, but the strength to start over. The stars began to appear one by one, scattered across the wide Iowa sky. I smiled, whispering into the dark, "I kept it safe, Grandma. I kept it all safe."